I did invite Akila to come on to talk about an incident with her daughter at Hillside. So if people want, just hang on for a moment. I know she wants to let people know what happened to her daughter at Hillside and figure out a way to kind of make sure the public knows what's happening in these detention centers, these group homes. Akila?
Yes, I'm back. I'm sorry. Um, well, a lot of people know that I had experienced back in January my children being removed from my home for education neglect. And those charges was actually dismissed. And right after I got my children back, in order to keep my one daughter, they had separated everybody and put her into a whole nother county, which is Steuben County up in, I think, Auburn, New York. And so she's in a Hillside program called Grow. So part of her still being there was the fact that she was being coerced by um, members of CPS, who the agents were basically telling her that they will give her her own apartment, and she can get a good education that will help her with different things. So they are actually coaching these children into coming into their system and giving them promises that they will be in a better light. So within that process, she never spoke with a lawyer, but the lawyer actually was speaking on her behalf and was saying that Taslima did not want to come home, and that really wasn't the case. So within us trying to figure out what's going on, we've been fighting, going back and forth with Monroe County and the commissioner, which is Thalia Wright, who overseen everything, understood our position as Indigenous people, but still has participating in violating the rights of Indigenous children. We've given them multiple laws. So what recently just happened, as my daughter has been in her care, she has been raped twice. In order for them to cover it up, they didn't sign any documents. So when my daughter went to the hospital, I had no knowledge of it, but CPS did. So they were the ones who opened up the endangerment of the welfare of the child, which actually she was already in like a, what they call a shelter. She went to a shelter because she has a habit of running away, and she thought that being, she wanted to be with her friends, thinking that I'm keeping her away from being in society around friends and stuff, but the type of people that she was around was not good people. So they were influencing her wrong. And as she's getting caught up with these officers and different things like that, they were offering her money to tell things about us, to actually participate in trying to take us down, since we have started a case and a claim against the city of Rochester in the RPD for arresting my 10-year-old daughter, Naila Bay. And behind my daughter opening up this case by, getting raped in the facility of the Center for Youth, behind their center, they tried to attribute it to me because she was in the shelter instead of her being at home, even though they had multiple reports knowing that she was a runaway. She kept running away. I was willing to assist her with getting the help that she wanted, but knowing that she's in the care and she actually was assaulted just recently, and it was reported 2 weeks ago on Thursday to the state troopers by a staff member who also brought in drugs, and he was giving her weed and cocaine. He introduced the cocaine to her. She just turned 15, and he basically, she was saying that the reason why she felt like it was her fault because they were telling her she needed to be responsible for her own actions. And one of the staff members was saying to her how nasty she was for doing that. And she's still a child. These people in these facilities are supposed to be their trustees and caregivers. And when they're out of the presence of their real parents, then they are supposed to be acting as the parent. But these people are acting as predators, and they're inside of these facilities. They didn't have any cameras in there. There was only one uh, one manager on at night. And so he comes on in the overnight. His name was Michael Perry. There's an investigation open right now. I feel like Monroe County is responsible for the lady who has been diligently trying to keep my daughter from coming back to me, which they said in order for her to come back, she just need to have home visits, a couple home visits, and a couple overnight stay visits. She has already had that. And they are still trying to add things to her. So they'll go and meet with her and say, oh, we have this program for you. We can offer you this program. And she doesn't realize by her signing up with these programs is holding her there longer. And the time of permanency is almost up. So if she's in the program for more than 15 months, then I lose my permanency and my full rights, supposedly, over her as her natural law mother. That's what they're claiming. I provided them with the SS4 Title 411D, which says that no federal agent or agency or government can actually take away the parental rights or the rights or a child from their parents without the consent of both parents. I brought this to their attention to return her immediately. I did not consent. I never have signed a document. I spoke it to one of the supervisor clinicians, who was letting me know about the situation of my daughter being molested. They basically, said, well, we're trying to prosecute this to the fullest, and what he did was wrong. And I just actually found out they actually are holding evidence that they did not turn into the police department to add to the claim. But she believes that it is her fault, because she says she feel like she initiated. But even though he comes over to her one day and she's sitting on the couch depressed looking, and he says, you look like you need a hug. And so she said, okay. And so when she stands up to give him a hug, he reaches down and he rubs on her butt. So that was the invitation right there. He invited her, and she didn't know what to do, so she just went with him. And she's been thinking that rape has been normal to her. And in this type of society, a lot of that stuff happens with young ladies, with young men, and they have this mindset that it's their fault. And with her not being in the right state of mind, she should not have to feel like she has to hold responsibility for that action, because she is only a child and she thinks right now she's an adult. She told me that. She said, I think I'm a woman. And I said, why do you feel like? She said, because Mr. Perry told me I was a good woman and that I will make a good wife. And he wanted to have a baby with her. And when he said that, that's when she really got scared, because she's like, I'm too young to have a baby. So a reality kind of kicked in her head that this was a bad situation. Anybody have any questions?
Fred, is your hand raised?
Yes, I feel for you, and I know exactly what you're going through. I experienced the same exact thing with my son. The Center for Youth did the exact same thing to me. Had my son thinking that they were going to give him an apartment, he was going to live on his own, he could do what he wanted to do, and all this. I mean, and Howard can contest to some of the stuff that I had to go through as a parent to get my son back. It was hell, pure D hell. And that organization, someone needs to expose them for who they are and what they are doing. It is insane that someone can take your child and call you up on the phone and tell you your child is here and you can't talk to them. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is the craziest thing any parent could ever hear, for your child who is underage, that someone has them, giving them cookies and milk and telling them they can stay here. What do you think a child is going to do? They're going to come up with stuff that don't even make any sense to the most irrational mind. Mm-hmm. And that is the thing that this organization does. And I'm appalled that no one in city government has done anything to hold them accountable for what our children go through in their care. I literally had to go through hell to get my son back, and he had no business being there.
And it's not that she doesn't have a loving family, because I've raised 8 children, so I've done well with all of them, and most of them are all graduated, and doing different things. So every now and then you get one that just wants to experience something different. And, she's a teenager, just like any teenager coming in. Once they find out they're a teenager, they think that's a whole nother level. Um, but it doesn't help when you have people coercing you and telling you, oh, your mom. And she told me, the lady said, you're supposed to have given me a phone. I should be able to have a phone. I should be able to talk to you, hang with my friends. I said, you can hang with your friends, but it depends on who you're hanging with. I'm not going to allow you to hang with somebody who's going to destroy you, take advantage of you, and make you think that that's normal to do because they're living a certain way. And she had to learn a whole lot of bad experiences, and still competently, I see that she is not competently at all aware of what's going on or what's happening, because she's still in that place. The way they structure things, they make them be accountable for everything. So even if they do something wrong, they don't know if they're doing something wrong, because they think it's normal. Oh, it's all about me. Yes, you should be accountable, but there's some things that adults are accountable for. You're not supposed to be thinking like on adult level. And the fact that this man gave my child cocaine, whew, like that just drives me insane. I bust out screaming and crying, not in front of her, because I didn't want her to be, concerned and worried. But she didn't know. She just didn't understand what just took place. And she told me, she said, Mommy, I want to get off drugs. I want to get my life right. And I'm like, what kind of drugs are you taking? How are you taking drugs in a facility? And that's when she started exposing stuff. And I'm happy she feels comfortable to tell me, because, I've always been one of those parents that really, overstand and listen to the children, like understand what they're saying, even if they have some type of difficulty with explaining stuff, you have to try to figure out what they're trying to say to you. And so much stuff has happened with these people and them trying to cover things up, to the point where they put her on Zoloft, and it started causing her to act irrational, aggressive, dangerous. And it also wasn't approved by the FDA to even give to children. And so when I mentioned it to Marcy Parks, part of CPS, that she didn't have permission to do any of those things and authorize any of those things, she immediately got off. Oh, I gotta go. You know what I'm saying? And it's just like, yeah, you're caught, and she's gonna tell me what's happening. And the fact that she has not been able to speak to the lawyer to get assistance. Why are they appointing these guardians over them, and then they're taking the word of the CPS person instead of the word of the child? If the child is saying, you're saying, I'm on the behalf of the child, I'm here for the child, whatever the child needs, I'm there to mediate with me. Why would you be mediating with the CPS, the so-called guardian and trustee? They signed my daughter up for social services. I'm not even on social services. She doesn't even live with me. A benefit card came to my home. Another benefit card came for my other daughter to another location. The people's like, so you got a card in the mail. They're signing her up, and they like emancipating her, making her sign documents so their signatures are not on it. And she's not supposed to be signing any documents, especially legal documents, if she has a lawyer who's supposed to be on her behalf. And I spoke with the clinician, the supervisor clinician, her name is Teresa, and I started talking to her about human trafficking. I said, if I brought my child, if my child came into your private facility through another agency, because they're a client, when they come in with all their documents, they come in with the signatures of the parents and all that, because there's court orders in there. I said, did y'all see a signature of mine on there? She said, no. I said, so how do you accept a child without having the signature? But I'm allowed to call you, and y'all allowed to call me and tell me what's going on and get my permission, but you don't have a signature from me. I said, that's you guys practicing fraud. You participating in human trafficking. Not only did this man have sexual relations, so now we're dealing with sex trafficking. And then on top of that, he brought drugs in. Now it's even more. And he was soliciting her because he was buying her things. He was getting her gift cards, So it's a lot to the story, but everybody in that area is participating in this. Too many children have fell through the cracks, and they talk about stuff that happened to them in the system, and we're not looking at the laws properly when we're dealing with agencies. They're only agencies. You do not have to work with an agency because they're an agency. You could choose the agencies you want to work with. No one can force intercourse with you without your permission, but obviously this keeps happening to our people. So we need to start bringing together petitions on children who have been raped, children who have been sex trafficked, because they're saying they're against this human trafficking, but they're the main ones in the trafficking ring. And they're also Governor Cuomo he's saying if they hold them for more than 15 months, do you know that they get a bonus of $400,000?
Wow,
They're getting a bonus of $400,000. How many children do you think they're gonna take?
So we do have to wrap this up. Sorry,
Okay.
Keela. Sorry to cut you off. Was there one more thing you had to say?
I would like some people to assist me with dealing and going up against these people, because I go by it by myself lately. That's all I'm doing. So I'm always going to be a target, but I need assistance, especially if other people experience the same thing. And there's certain municipality judges that are operating out of their legal official capacity to help assist with these agencies stealing the trust and stealing people's children. And we need to really look at these laws. I have a whole bunch of laws set up already that I'm putting together, but I need other assistance. I need petitions so we can get some stuff started so we can start holding them together.
Okay, so what we're going to do is wrap everything up. We want to, any final thoughts anyone have? Is there anything else we want to end with? Fred?
Yes, I put some stuff in the chat, and I urge everyone to go on to the Center for Youth website and look at their annual report. Out of $9 million they received in 20 to 21, almost $8 million of those dollars went to personnel. But your job is to save and protect kids. And look at all the organizations that fund them and how much money they're giving. And you can gauge that those people are not really for the betterment of us. Look at this. And I go on their website. Their annual report is there.
Okay.
Somebody needs to hold them accountable.
Thanks again for joining me. And hopefully we look forward to the next one, next Sunday at 6. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.